We've played them all, and now we know what happens. Week 18 of the regular season in the books. We've got the playoffs. We've got a draft order. Black Monday is heating up. We got a lot to get to today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Like to say a big thank you and shout out to our everydayers, those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day. We appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $150, win or lose. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started.
Joe, happy Monday. Not a happy Monday for everybody in more ways than one. Teams that lost ended their season. Teams that won and got in and punched their ticket to the postseason, so they're having a happy Monday. You have coaches and GMs, a lot of changes on the horizon here as we've reached the end of the NFL regular season.
Yeah, so many different things going on, and it's such a massive swing between those that are gearing up for a postseason game and those that are hitting the reset button. So we're going to get to all of that, obviously, today, and it'll set a big foundation for the discussions we're going to have throughout the coming months. But we are going to start with kind of a Week 18 reaction in this playoff field being set. And it was an interesting Week 18 because you had some games where things were locked up. There wasn't a lot of implications, but obviously there were games with huge implications. And Kyle, I mean, where would you like to start? You take the journey, you go back to Saturday. And
yeah, I think you have a game that, for one team, everything was on the line, and for the other, nothing was on the line, and Pittsburgh wins, and they need help.
Yeah.
Well, behold, they got help.
Yeah, they got it. They did it.
Ticket punched.
What? and you and I'm sure you might have this data, but like we were kind of high on the Steelers this year because of their schedule. And it's never the straight line you expect anything to go, right? They lost those couple games in a row, but for them to come back out of it with big wins down the stretch, quarterback switch again, coordinator switch, they got in. And for all the talk that we had this year about a 10-win team not making in the AFC, we even got to the point where maybe an 11-10 win doesn't get in. All the 10-win teams get in, and of course, Steelers do their thing and get the help. And then, of course, Saturday night, you get this Texans-Colts game that winds up being a play-in game that was ultimately for the AFC South. And the Houston Texans are your AFC South champions. Hat tip, bouquet of flowers. I won the bet with Chris Schubert. I had a 5-year strike zone for the Texans to finish in the top two of the AFC South. They win the whole thing. And obviously CJ Stroud, and they're going into the playoffs. They're going to Cleveland, right? It's one of the games. And so
Cleveland's coming to them.
Excuse me. Yeah, they're coming to them, which is huge for Houston to not go to Cleveland. So, yeah, we got things started on Saturday, which was obviously what set the tone for what happened on Sunday.
Yeah. You feel a little bit for Ty Goodson, feel for Gardner Minshew. That last play, that was a bummer way to lose a game. The way in which the Colts lost it, that ultimately ends their season. And you knew when that game was played, loser will be eliminated from the postseason contention. And Shane Steichen draws up the perfect play. Ball's a little bit behind him. Goodson can't quite haul it in. A really tough way to end a game. So good games on Saturday all around, and it set the stage for kind of a dramatic 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock slate on Sunday. A lot of good games.
1 o'clock, obviously, Bucs 9-0 win over Carolina. They're the NFC South champs. Carolina doesn't score in their last two games. Of course, we'll get to Scott Fitterer. That's coming up. That kind of was like a big box to check, I thought, in the early slate. And then, of course, the game that so many were paying attention to was Titans-Jaguars. And a pretty entertaining game. The Titans kind of held to a lead throughout. Jaguars kind of made it close. But Trevor Lawrence at the end of the game to scramble for 8 yards and then throw 3 incompletions in a row and season's over. No AFC South championship. It's kind of was an emblematic game of their season.
Really felt it was 3rd and 4th down that were bad.
Situation.
Yeah. The rollout where we throw the ball out of bounds and then we come back and a handoff is called and Trevor Lawrence, bad ankle and all, makes the decision to change the play to go for the quarterback sneak. He called his own number. That was not the play that was called. And I think that part of it was really eye-opening. And he was probably 2 inches away from scoring? If that. If 2 inches away, like maybe closer. Impossible to tell.
I don't usually pay much attention to arm length and quarterbacks, Kyle. Maybe I should.
Well, but if you were, Trevor Lawrence would probably be 99th percentile because of how long he is as a player. And I think that was a tough way to go, but I don't know what it is about these midseason AFC South division leaders, but you don't want to be in first place in the South at the midway point of a season because this is now 2 consecutive seasons. Tennessee lost 5 straight games to close the season last year.
Yeah.
And now Jacksonvile goes from 8-3 and one of 4 teams at 8-3 through 11 weeks or 12 weeks. And they lose 5 of their last 6.
Yep.
To finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs. Really tough collapse for them. I think there's probably going to be some changes there. And you understand Trevor Lawrence playing with an injury there at the end, and he didn't play in the week prior against Carolina. But I think with what Doug Peterson was hired to do coming into the Jacksonville and what you now have with a 2-year sample size of working with Doug Peterson for Trevor Lawrence, that's probably the most uncomfortable conversation that organization is going to have.
Yeah. Not the one you expected to have at all. So that win for Tennessee puts the Bills and Steelers into the playoffs. And for the Bills, it becomes a matter of seeding, and the Steelers punch their ticket. Then you get to the afternoon slate, and
that was NFC wild card race. Was that?
Yeah, that was right. The big game was okay. Are the Packers going to beat the Bears? Okay, box check. Jordan Love, big plays down the stretch. I'm sure they're feeling great about Jordan Love and Lambeau taking that team to the playoffs with all those young players around him. Defense kind of tightens it up. They had some rough games down the stretch. They punched their ticket, and so it becomes about the 2 seed, right? And seeing the Eagles, right? Like good for Dallas. They win their game. Detroit wins. Go ahead. Sure.
Can I call time out here?
Sure.
We talked about the Bucs and how they won their game.
Yes.
Right. And you talked about the Packers in that win and in scenario against the Bears. The Packers get in courtesy. It's a 3-way tie between Seattle, New Orleans, because New Orleans beats the Falcons.
Yeah.
And Arthur Smith is donezo. We'll talk about him in a minute. And the Packers. And the Packers get in courtesy of a strength of victory tiebreaker. Do you know what the Saints' point differential is this season?
They had so many lopsided games. I would bet it's pretty good. They got killed the Patriots. They had some big lopsided wins this last one.
Plus 75.
Yeah.
Missed the playoffs at 9-8. Plus 75. That would be the second best point differential in the NFC East. Philadelphia is currently second in that division, plus 5, 11-6, plus 5, Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas plus 194. That would be the best point differential in the NFC North. That is the best point differential in the NFC South, and it would be the second best point differential in the NFC West. It would be the second best point differential, 2 points behind the Chiefs in the AFC West. It's comfortably the best by over 50 points in the AFC South. It would be the second best point differential in the AFC North, and it would be the third best point differential in the AFC East. Team missed playoffs.
Rolling with Dennis Allen, though, so we'll see.
We'll talk about Dennis Allen when we get to Black Monday, because I have some thoughts about your team deciding to go rogue on you and running a play of their own at the end of a blowout win. But that's neither here nor there.
All right, we'll stay on schedule here. We'll talk a little bit more about the NFC picture. Of course, the AFC got very interesting there late, so stick with us. But folks, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to be certain that you have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Look, LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats right now and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy, and they even just launched a feature that will help you write job descriptions, making it that much easier and that much quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Please resume with NFC race.
Yeah,
Dallas.
Dallas. Yeah, Dallas takes care of business. Detroit takes care of business. I want to get to Philadelphia, Kyle. This team is just, I don't know how you could feel worse about a team that was 11-6, that had a playoff ticket clinched, I don't know, a month ago, going into the playoffs right now with how they're playing it. I mean, this game gets out of hand against the Giants, the Giants, after they lost to the Cardinals last week. I mean, this is just not, they're not in a good place right now. Sirianni's on the ropes. It feels like Hurts with the injury, right? His fingers dislocated. I mean, you want to talk about just not entering the postseason, playing your best football. That's where we're at with the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't feel good about them.
10-1 to 11-6. Not great. And I would not pick them to beat the Bucs.
Oh God, no. Yeah, I can't.
And it's not even like they've had some games where they've scored some points. I mean, offensively, they're very clunky. They turned the ball over. Let's see, 4, 7, 8, 12 times in the last 5 games offensively. So that's not good. But defensively, they are just a train wreck. And they quietly moved on from Desai and put Matt Patricia, Patriots' former offensive coordinator, wink, wink, in that spot. And it has not helped at all. The Eagles, probably the ugliest of the postseason teams, for a slide for those teams that got in. And very low expectations. And A.J. Brown got hurt on the MetLife turf. Devontae Smith was already banged up. Now Jalen Hurts hurt. This thing has just really steamrolled on the Eagles in a really bad way.
Yeah. Very quick hat tip to the 10-win Rams. We're going to have some fun conversations this week about awards. I'm going to be talking about Sean McVay and that Coach of the Year. I'm not sure. I got a little time to talk to God about who my pick's going to be for Coach of the Year. I think there's some good candidates, but Sean McVay, 10-win team. I think that's just outstanding. Which gets us to Sunday night, the Bills-Dolphins AFC East title game. The Bills have a massive fourth quarter to take care of their climb all the way back from 6-6 in week 11, the number 11 seed in the AFC. They finished the season winning 5 in a row, 6 of 7 to be the 2 seed and win the AFC East. A game that feels like the Bills squandered so many opportunities early on. Felt like the Dolphins were rolling on offense throughout the first half of the game. And then the second half, the Bills defense just really, really takes it out of Miami with their 5 second-half drives. They never get more than 4 plays on any of those drives. They don't score any points. They have 8 rushing yards the second half. The Bills get a big special teams touchdown and some big plays down the stretch to wind up winning it with a bunch of unlikely heroes along the way. But the Bills come out and finish as the 2 seed in a very, very winding path to get there.
So AFC playoff picture: Ravens off the bye, 13-4. Buffalo 2, Kansas City 3, Houston 4, Cleveland 5, Miami 6, Pittsburgh 7. So Buffalo hosting Pittsburgh, Kansas City hosting Miami, and Houston hosting Cleveland. And then on the NFC side of things, San Francisco at 12-5 wins courtesy of conference win percentage. Also had head-to-head tiebreaker against Dallas, who was the 2 seed. Detroit, the 3 seed, also 12-5. Dallas holds that courtesy of the win last week to get the 2 seed. Tampa Bay is the 4. Philadelphia the 5, the Rams the 6, and the Packers the 7. So Dallas hosting Green Bay. Some postseason bad blood there. Detroit hosting the Rams, Jared Goff revenge game potentially. And then you have Tampa Bay hosting Philadelphia in the wild card round as well.
As I reflect on the playoff fields on both sides, I think the NFC, the one team that surprises me is the Rams. I think credit to people that thought they could do it. Like, hat tip to you. I thought the talent was lacking too much. I think that's my surprise team in the NFC. And then in the AFC, to see the Bengals and Jaguars, two teams that I thought were going to be division winners this year, not make it. And I actually picked Cleveland and Pittsburgh to make the playoffs. What I didn't pick correctly was Houston, and honestly, I didn't think the Ravens were going to be this type of team. I thought they'd be good, but not like number one seed good. So as we have the field set, I think those are my biggest surprises when it's all said and done.
It'll be fun to go back and revisit the rankings that we had in the preseason, which may be something that we can circle back to this week as well. But that's your playoff field. We also have the draft order for the non-playoff field, which is now officially set.
Yeah. So the Carolina Panthers have the number one pick. It goes to the Bears. Washington, number 2. New England, number 3. So they wind up losing that game to the Jets. And I didn't think they would ever lose in Belichick's potential last game. They're in that top 3 pick position. But the team here that's most interesting to me is this 4-5 situation between Arizona and the Chargers. Matt Prater misses those 2 field goals in the fourth quarter. If they would have won the game, they would have been the number 5 pick. Instead, the Chargers are the number 5 pick. And Kyle Crabbs, you'd like to think that both of these teams would love to have Marvin Harrison Jr. So if you get quarterbacks in the top 3 picks, that 4 spot is huge because they're rolling with Herbert. We've heard that they're rolling with Murray. You'd love to give him Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, Arizona, the team that gets that selection, and you get the Bears with picks 1 and 9 in the top 10. We got some interesting stuff here, and it feels like the opportunity for those quarterbacks could go with the first 3 picks is right there.
I may or may not have pulled up our schedule predictions. Just
I never doubted it.
Want to do it now? Want to close the show?
Never.
You tell me.
Come on, it feels like it's right there. It's right there. We got to do it, right?
All right. So we had the Kansas City Chiefs as the 1 seed at 13-4 in the AFC. We had the 2 seed as the Cincinnati Bengals at 12-5. Obviously, that team losing Joe Burrow, but starting slow.
We did this in July, right?
We live streamed this 5 months ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The 3 seed we had was the Buffalo Bills at 12-5. We had the 4 seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 11-6. The 5 seed, we had the Miami Dolphins at 11-6. The 6 seed, we had the New York Jets at 11-6. And the 7 seed, we had the Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-7. We also had the Baltimore Ravens at 10-7. And we had the Browns at 9-8. So we correctly predicted that the entire AFC North, for the first time since 1935, was going to have all teams with winning records. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. Shame on us for not knowing about the Aaron Rodgers injury and the Joe Burrow injury.
Right.
That shame on us.
Our division winners included San Francisco, Dallas, New Orleans, and Detroit. In the NFC, our wildcard teams were Philadelphia, Seattle, and the New York Giants at 8 and 9.
Oh, man, that hurts. The Giants, man, that feels like our biggest whiff. We whiff on the Giants every year, a tradition like no other.
We knew the Commanders were going to be who they were, though. We had them at 3-14.
Yikes!
So there you go. There's our predictions. But you pointed out the 4 spot being a really interesting draft order spot. I have a few other draft order observations that we can get to, Joe, if you'd like to after the break.
All right, so stick with us. Draft order observations. The firings are starting, but the NFL regular season has wrapped up, but there's still plenty of time and plenty of action to get in on over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins or if they lose. So check it out. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways that you can bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and you can do so much more with spreads, player props, over-unders. It's all there over at FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I guess my first observation is it's a tough time to be a 9-8 football team because you had 5 of them that missed the playoffs. Saints,
You got to get to 10, right? Like,
yeah,
you got to get to 10.
Well, you would have thought maybe not as much anymore with the expanded playoff fields.
Yeah, it feels tight as well, though, right? Like it feels more open, but it's still tight, right? It feels like.
The Jets winning ultimately cost them picking the difference of 6th versus 10th in the draft order.
Big dubs.
It's not a small number. I think it's certainly one that they can take in stride particularly if they're going to go offensive line. I would be a little leery, though, because you have the Chargers and the Giants and the Titans and potentially even the Bears.
Yeah.
All picking in front of you as offensive line needy teams. So for the Jets, you're assuming they're going to use that spot to not draft a quarterback because Aaron Rodgers would probably pitch a fit if they did that.
2-year commitment, Kyle. He made
it's 2-year commitment. Yeah. So that's the kind of the storyline for me. If they're going to pick a player that they're looking to have an impact and help this team with where it was most weak, you do look at the offensive line and feel like that needs to get addressed. And they have Mekhi Becton as an expiring contract. Doesn't sound like they have a lot of appetite to bring him back. So that's just kind of a top 10 storyline that I have as well in the aftermath of that Week 17 win over the Patriots.
How many top 10 tackles did you have? 4?
A bunch.
I had 3.
Yeah, I think you'd still be running lean if you get it reminds you of the 2020 class, right? Where you had Andrew Thomas at 4, and then you had Mekhi and Jedrick Wills, and they were gone at 10, 11, and then Wirfs win at 14 with the trade with Tampa and San Francisco, and Austin Jackson at 18. Like, I think you could see those numbers in this class.
Yeah. Was that Isaiah Wilson as well towards the end of the Jeez, man.
John Robinson.
Oh, man. I'm supposed to throw the shade at John Robinson. There it is, Kyle.
You brought the name. I was perfectly fine to not mention Isaiah Wilson at all. You brought him up. So you brought the shade whether I said his name or not.
Right. You know me. What am I going to do? I have no Ron Rivera anymore. John Robinson's on the can. You know what I mean? I got to find some new victims.
What a segue for Black Monday. Joe manages to find an excuse to mention Ron Rivera's name first.
When you have 12 seasons as an NFL head coach, a winning record and 3 of them.
Did you see the ownership there and who they're bringing in to help with their search?
I saw things on social media. Is it some analytics guy? What's the deal here?
So it's Rick Spielman and a former NBA general manager are coming in to help conduct the search for the new football operations people in Washington.
Why Rick Spielman?
Former NFL GM, I suppose.
Okay. So Ron Rivera, what was that a weird storyline about how it was his birthday yesterday and they weren't going to fire him on his birthday? Okay. Like
they played the game yesterday. You didn't have to say that. Like just
that was such a weird talking point. Like all week long, like, okay, they're going to wait until Monday to fire him. Like, okay.
They're going to do the thing that every other team does other than the Atlanta Falcons firing Arthur Smith last night.
Felt like inevitable with Ron Rivera. Good man. Results of his football teams are inconsistent. And for them to have the defensive lapses and with the defensive investments that they've made, I mean, it's pretty obvious. We knew that they needed to really impress or else Josh Harris and this new ownership group was going to, get their own people in there. And that's going to happen. And I think what's really interesting about Washington is this is no longer the, oh my God, who wants to go work for Daniel Snyder and go to Washington, right? This is suddenly fairly attractive. We did their Levy Grail postseason episode already that Commanders fans can go back and listen to, but there's a lot to be excited about with the number 2 pick, with all the resources that you have. And now you're resetting and look at your division. Eagles don't look like come on, they have so many old players. It's reset potentially there. And Dallas always feels kind of vulnerable to me. So better days coming for Washington.
For sure. You also had Arthur Smith, who we alluded to. That team will pick 8th for the third consecutive year. I mean, Arthur Smith 7 and 10 in all 3 of his NFL seasons. Offense got seemingly worse every year. And obviously
not good.
They made the big bet to put all their chips in the Desmond Ridder basket, and that didn't work out too well for them. That's an attractive spot in my mind.
No doubt.
Terry Fontenot will remain in place. Arthur Blank, this for courtesy of Adam Schefter, Arthur Blank and Rich McKay, with input from Terry Fontenot, will lead Falcons search for new head coach. I think if you do have that stability and you're willing to look at the talent that's assembled there in Atlanta, I think you feel like you're a quarterback away, and especially in that division. So I think Atlanta has a lot to feel good about from their collection of talent.
Time
out.
Go trade for Justin Fields and let's go Boogie. You know what I mean?
Probably. I mean, it's going to cost you 2 plus?
Here you go. Here you can have it. Atlanta has the 43rd pick in the draft. Would you like to have that? Here you go.
Well, Chicago would be tickled pink. And right. Atlanta has 2 3s as well. They have a 3 courtesy of Jacksonville for the Calvin Ridley trade.
Let's get us the right offensive-minded head coach, Justin Fields, with those skill players, with that veteran offensive line, with the strides they made on defense. Let's go win the NFC South next year.
Do you want to do that, or do you want to draft Michael Penix?
No, I don't want to do that. No. Nope.
Who else do we have?
And
out.
Fitterer in Carolina. Doesn't this feel like a good opportunity to talk about that rift between Dennis Allen and Arthur Smith?
Yes, it does. Yeah, I'm glad you said that and reminded me to bring that back up. Does Arthur Smith have a reason to be exacerbated that they came out in victory formation and kneel the ball out and then ran a play? Sure, I think that kind of breaks the coaching code, and I think that's why Dennis Allen apologized to Atlanta immediately after the game. We just got done talking about how the Saints are plus 75 point differential, scored 400 points this season, yet managed to find a way to miss the playoffs and go 9-8. And they feel like the underachieving team, that if you're Dennis Allen and your Saints have underachieved again, because I think they underachieved last year as well.
Mm-hmm. And
now the players are just kind of calling their own shots out there on the field. What kind of grasp of your locker room does that illustrate that you have? I get you wanted to get a guy a touchdown this season and all that jazz. I don't know. It's to go out and be in victory formation, then run a play and score a touchdown with the score what it was. They were up 28 points, I think, 25 points, and ran a play for a touchdown. And then the players were like, yeah, we called our own number there. We did it. Whatever. And then your coach has to go up on the podium and apologize for it. It's just weird. For an underachieving team, it's weird.
It is weird. And that's, but can we talk about the Arthur Smith side of this? Like, my lasting impression, when I think about the Arthur Smith Atlanta Falcons era of football, I'm going to think about a salty, mad dude. And
I'm going to think about a guy who's nothing was ever Arthur Smith's fault. In Arthur Smith's mind, nothing that ever happened to his football team felt like he felt it was his fault.
Like, can you just not take the high road and just like understand that you've underachieved and just like take the high road and just get out of here?
Well, he is getting out of here. They saw to that just fine and well. It's fine. He'll go be Vrabel's OC in New England.
Okay. So Vrabel's what 6-23 or 6-18 in their last 24 games?
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth, and maybe that's where we finish, is talking about what still has to come.
Yeah.
Talking about Vrabel sign an extension, so he's here versus he's going to have a meeting with ownership, and then there's a dispute that there's no meeting scheduled. I feel like there's enough smoke there where I could see, if Vrabel's not going to be in Tennessee, you feel like New England's going to make a run at him, right?
Oh, surely. I think we all kind of saw, who was going into the rafters? Was it Brady, something? I don't know. Vrabel bye week, he's sitting with Robert Kraft at the Patriots Stadium. You're like, okay, yeah. Right. I mean, everybody's mind went there. And especially if they could trade, like, I mean, I don't know. We talked about sort of like a trade, but I don't know. What do you think I don't think they would just fire him. I don't know. But like, you'd have to think that if there's enough appetite from New England for that to be their next head coach, that they're going to go do it.
And obviously the shoe that falls there is New England moving on from Bill Belichick. You have to think he's not done. He has not successfully chased down Don Shula yet, so he's going to continue his pursuit, it seems like.
It's tough to have a 4-win season baked in there at the end when you're trying to claim a
and that's the thing. Like, what landing spots are you going to go to where you're going to get more than 4 or 5 next year, too?
Dude, it's not you're going to have to coach a lot of years.
Go to Washington and play the presumably the competent Eagles next year. And Dallas with that roster.
No. Kyle's going to be the head coach version of Ozzy Osbourne. You know what I mean? We saw him out there at SoFi week 1 last year. It's going to be Belichick out there. Yeah, he's going to be out there trying to get some play calls in.
Is he going to? I guess he could go to the Chargers, but that Chargers roster is.
Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that if you're the Chargers? Like, set the foundation for a long time.
Name. Right.
Just come on, dude.
So who else? He surely wouldn't go to Carolina, right? Surely there's going to be a playoff team that lays an egg and fires.
Bring Bill here. I'm here for that circus. Him fisticuffs with old Dave Tepper.
Bill going from a underachieving first-round pick quarterback with an offense that scored 236 points to another underachieving first-round pick quarterback that scored 236 points this season.
Here for it. So, yeah, that's a domino that we're waiting on. Might be it. I mean, we got 4 already vacancies, head coaching vacancies with the Raiders.
We have the Panthers. We have the Commanders. We have the Chargers. And
Raiders and Falcons. Raiders and Falcons.
Raiders and that better not open up. That's Antonio Pierce's job.
I mean,
and if it's not, I'm gonna be mad.
Finishing down the stretch like they did, no Josh Jacobs, Aiden O'Connell's your quarterback. You really don't have that much talent to begin with.
Point differential.
Yeah, I'd be here for it. 63-21 win over the Chargers will help there, but
positive point differential.
Damn right it is. Damn right it is.
And if you looked at that roster before the season, you felt that was a 5-win team. They won 8.
Right. They overachieved with a head coaching switch in the middle of the year.
Yeah. Pierce won 5 by himself in 9 games.
Unbelievable.
Winning record down the stretch. So technically it's a vacancy. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't Antonio Pierce. So I think you could also get New England. If you get New England, I think you have a domino effect where potentially Tennessee opens up. So 5 to 7, 8, you're probably going to be around a quarterly. Like, who's the playoff team? Who's the playoff team that's most likely with a stinker to have the vacancy open up?
Do you feel like that's Sirianni?
I could see, depending on what
we can do the thing. We can do the thing. I know we're going long here, but
all right, Tomlin, good. The way they finished two road wins down the stretch, and I understand Baltimore sat their guys, but they physically took it to Baltimore.
That would just stun me. But okay, sure. I don't think so. Yeah.
Miami Dolphins.
No. Cleveland
Browns.
No.
Houston Texans.
No.
A spoiler alert, that's my vote for Coach of the Year based off Houston winning the NFC South. Kansas City Chiefs.
No.
Mike Flores talking about Andy Reid retiring.
Well, he's hyping up an involuntary change for some team, right? Like, all right, we got to wait for that shoe to fall. And he's been doubling and tripling down.
Probably hyping up Dallas.
Okay, well, we're doing the thing, so we'll get there.
Buffalo?
No.
Baltimore?
No.
They still kicking John Harbaugh down the can,
brother,
down the yard 1 year at a time with 1-year contract extensions.
Might just
weird subplot a few years ago that was.
Yeah.
Green Bay?
No.
LA Rams?
No.
Philadelphia?
Maybe.
Tampa Bay? Maybe, probably not.
Probably not.
If Philly blows him out, I think maybe that gets interesting.
That could be a huge game, yeah. Like, if somebody lays an egg, that could be a fatal egg to lay.
Detroit?
No way.
Dallas?
I wouldn't think so.
If Dallas loses to Green Bay at home, I'd be at least a little nervous.
I hear you on that, but like, he's 3 consecutive 12-5 seasons.
I understand that.
Jason Garrett made it longer after 3 8-8s.
I understand that.
What?
I think it'd be foolish considering what Dak Prescott looked like this year.
Right.
I mean, Dak's probably top 3 on your MVP ballot, right?
This stuff is not cut and dry this year, man. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when there's one team with more than 12 wins in the entire league.
Right. Yeah. My brother and I had that conversation. It's like, have you ever seen less wins for the 1 seeds combined?
Oh, I'm sure that's happened. And then just to finish the thought, San Francisco. No, they're not making.
I think they're probably okay.
Now I'm looking at 1 seeds.
It's now I got your grab ball. But so we think it's Philly, Dallas, in
Tampa. You might get 1. You're guaranteed to get a loss.
Yeah.
And if it's Philly, I would not be surprised with I don't know, just
dude, they've had like how many wins in a row against they had like 10 wins in a row or like something even more against teams that were like with winning records or something like that was just improbable. I don't know. Like, is there enough good graces there? Is this a matter of just attrition? You lost. Look, I mean, Gannon and Steichen look like they're going to be just fine as head coaches. They lost some coaching talent there. You know what I mean? And it doesn't look like either of the replacements were good. Like,
that's the thing that happened with Doug Peterson though, and they pulled the plug.
Right.
So that's what I would be worried about with Philadelphia, particularly 31st on third down defensively, 30th in red zone defense. And they end up finishing 30th in scoring defense, 428 points allowed, 25 points per game. So that is going to do it for us here on this episode of Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Week 18 is in the books. We are on to the postseason, or we are on to the offseason, depending on your perspective. Joe, we got some Levy Grails to do. We got award voting to do. So it'll be a busy week for us here. Make sure you come back and see us, and we'll talk to you all again tomorrow.